Hey, this is David with the Acme Kitchen Crate, showing you here the differences between the Ultimate Kit and the Standard Kit. So the Ultimate Kit is everything that's in the Standard Kit, exactly the same, with the addition of everything I have out here. So I'll walk you through the additions and why I have them. So I'll start kind of here in the middle. So when it comes to the knives, I have a Kiritsuki knife here from Miyabi. So I wanted to give something that's a little longer of a slicing knife, and this is kind of a very unique profile in the Japanese world. It's got a much more longer flat blade. It's not meant for rocking. It's really more for sliding through things, and I think it's a really good complement to having the chef's knife. So you get something that's a little longer, different profile. So I think that's going to be a really good knife to be adding into the set. Also adding in from Jonathan Spoons, their spatula. So this is just a nice flat, good, easy spatula for chopping things up, or if you want to use it for flipping pancakes and stuff, but you want to use a wood spatula instead of the nylon or fiberglass. That's really nice. Adding a oyster knife for shucking oysters, and a additional pin bone puller. Better for bigger bones and more stuff, and it gives you just a lot more leverage. So that's a really nice piece, for people who are doing a lot more whole fish. Also including a mesh strainer. So as opposed to just having the spider strainer, this is really good for frying when you have large items you're getting out. This is really nice sometimes for skimming, or if we have just smaller items that we want to pull out of the water. If you're making German dumplings or little things that might fall through the spider, this is a kind of nice piece to have. The mesh is a little bit, can pick up more dirt and things, so I only use this if I need that finer mesh. Otherwise the spider is going to be the easier one to clean. But again, if you're doing some of those kinds of things where you have smaller stuff you want to pull out, or if you're trying to skim the water, you can use this. You can also add a piece of cheesecloth to the inside of this if you really want to get a good skim. So that's a really nice piece to have. And then tongs. So in addition to the standard larger tongs, these are kind of a fine-tooth comb when it comes to tongs, so that way you can really have precision in picking things up. Really nice piece to have when you're working at the cooktop. In the tongs and kind of spoon and everything world too, another big thing is a plating set. So this is where if you want to be really precise in plating and stuff, you've got your strained spoon here, so that way you can pick up stuff, the liquid will drain out, and then you can kind of place it nicely. You've got tongs of two sizes. You have a precise angled needle tip, and then you've got a larger piece as well. You'll see this is still a lot smaller than the cooking tongs than what you get here. So this is really for that more precise plating work. Offset spatula, smoothing, frostings, various different kinds of things, and then just additional kind of tasting or serving spoons. So this is just a really fun, nice little set for you're finishing with the meal, you're just doing a final plating, and it comes in a nice little roll-up case. Getting into measuring tools. So I already have my fine tooth, my little executive needle from ThermoWorks. I really love this one because it's so compact, fits in a pocket really nicely, works fantastic. This is kind of the big boy, which is really well known in the industry. This is the ThermaPen. They're both going to be equally as accurate. The big difference between the two is speed. This will give you a temperature reading in under a second. This one's going to be more like 3 to 4 seconds. So if you're doing larger stuff, you're doing a lot of stuff at once, this is really nice to have, the larger piece. It's also a little quicker turning it on and off just by opening the probe, as opposed to this one, you got to press and hold the start button. They're both great. This one, because it's got the thinner needle point, I actually kind of go for this more often just because it's going to make less of a hole in your steak than this guy will. If you're only using the outside tip of this, then it's not so bad. But if you're using a really large piece of meat, this can start to leave a little bit more of a hole than this one will. So as long as I don't need the speed, this is usually my go-to just because of liking that tip. Another thing for long cooks is a leave-in thermometer. And so I really like Combustion Inc. This is a Bluetooth Wi-Fi thermometer. And so with these, you have a probe that sits in this little charging cradle, which this is also a Wi-Fi booster to get you more range. So this is able to get inserted into your meat, and this is rated up to 900 degrees and can be fully submerged. So you can use this for sous vide, you can use it on the smoker, you can use it on the grill, and that way you just leave it in the meat and you'll get a one-time temp here. You'll be able to see exactly what temperature you're reading just from the single probe, or you can use the app, and it'll give you a full graph so you can track where everything is going. You can get alerts and alarms if things are once they hit your temp and stuff. And they have a really interesting app that gives you a lot of features to be able to predict what your final temp is going to be and when something is going to be ready. They can also do what's called their safe cook, where you can basically, it'll calculate over time when all the bacteria has been killed in something, not just hitting a temp. So if you are concerned and you're trying to hit, a USD pasteurization, but you don't necessarily want to overcook something to being dry, this will show you how to do it at a longer, slower cook to accomplish the same thing. So it's a really cool, powerful tool. I really like Combustion. The guy who's runs Combustion is really well respected in the industry and has some really amazing information on how to use these really well for steaks and stuff like that. I'll link his channel and how he shows how to cook a steak here. It's really a fantastic piece. I'm adding the box grater. I don't use the box grater very often because I'm going to generally be going for this guy. It's going to be a much quicker thing if I'm just trying to do a small amount of cheese and I just want to quickly grate something into a bowl. This is great. But if I'm doing entertaining, that's where this comes in well, because then I can set it down and I can really get a lot of use out of this. And then it's also got additional sizes, so I can do ribbons, which I can't do with the other one. And it's got additional, just different sizes of grates. When it comes to, mashing or other things, another nice little tool is a ricer. And so this piece here from Rozzle has a couple different size grates, and it's really great for making purees. If you want to get something really soft, you can also use the thicker one. If you're just looking for something much more consistent in texture than you would get with the traditional masher. This is still going to be my go-to for potatoes and stuff because I usually don't want them just absolutely silky, but if you do, that's when you want the food mill. This you can have a little more control in how much lumps you leave if you want any, or if you still want to have a little texture, it gives you a little bit more control. This is going to be soft purees or something really silky, or you want to juice something and get the seeds out. That's also a really nice tool for this. So this is really another one of these like the box grater. It's used for entertaining when I'm doing large stuff and I have a specific texture I'm after. That's when this really comes in helpful. Following on the same entertaining thing is, a giant mixing bowl. This is a 13 quart and I absolutely love it. This is definitely a commercial service size, but when doing, double batches for entertaining, Thanksgiving, big things like that, having this big bowl to be able to toss things and not have stuff splatter all over the counter, I really love it. It takes up a little extra space, which is why I don't include it in the normal set. But if you have the room for it, I kind of recommend it for anyone who does any kind of batch cooking. It's really nice to have. This is also a nice little piece here. This is a splatter strainer from Le Creuset. If you're frying bacon or you're doing things, you just don't want to get your cooktop all dirty. This is really nice to be able to just kind of set it on your skillet, and it helps reduce all of that. And it works really well. It's a really nice piece from Le Creuset. This is a Rozzle salad spinner. So again, if you're doing larger draining of things, if you're washing produce and stuff like that, having a salad spinner gives you a large bowl to be able to do a lot at once, and it's going to get it drier than most anything else possibly can. This is a really nice large bowl with a really nice mechanism that's just super smooth and is able to get everything really nice and dry. And then it's a nice good bowl that you can also use. So this is just a normal bowl in the end of the day, so you can then put your salad in it right after you make it. Really nice piece. If you're into salads and stuff, I really highly recommend this one. I have in the standard kit, I've got 7¼ quart Dutch oven. But sometimes it's nice to have some other sizes and particularly other materials. And so this is where I'm adding a 5 quart Dutch oven, but this is in the copper bond. And so being a copper bond piece, this is going to give you, it's really lightweight. A 5 quart of the same size in cast iron would be almost double the weight of this. So it's really lightweight and easy to move. But what's really nice is the copper bond material means that the heat is really going to rise up the sides. With a traditional cast iron Dutch oven, you tend to get most of your heat down below, and then it gives you really good even convection, but the sides themselves aren't going to get as hot. This allows the heat to kind of wick its way up while still being a really, gorgeous, pretty looking pan. It's also kind of does double duty because this and this are also kind of my everyday pans. So we have a smaller saucier in the standard set. This is kind of, they call this their everyday pan, but this is really a larger saucier, where this is a 3.5 quart, this is a 5 quart. It's the same shape surface of the base. They're just different sizes and different materials. This is obviously the stainless clad versus the copper. But this is, again, these kind of really good pots for one pot stuff. If you're making pasta, you want to either boil it, you can boil it in here, and then you can drain it. You can make your sauce. You know, you can do a casseroles. You can do all kinds of stuff in it. It's really versatile pieces. So I have the two depending on how big your batch is. These will both kind of be used either way. But, you know, if you have a larger batch, you can use this. If you have something smaller, this is a really nice piece. I don't use it as often, which is why I don't include it in the standard set, but when I need it, it's really helpful to have. Another little trick with this is, since in the standard set I don't have a specific lid for the everyday pan, this actually will fit the everyday pan, which is really nice. So that way, if you want to use the everyday pan in the oven or other things, you have a lid that you can also kind of toss on that. So it does a little bit of double duty in that regard again as well. Another big addition to the Ultimate Kit is into the bakeware. So in particular, one of the things I really love is Le Creuset's bakeware. So I have their roaster and their oval gratin dish, and I really like these. Because they're heavy cast iron, they get a really good crust whenever you're doing any kind of baking and casseroles and things like that in here. And they're really a great, you know, looks great when you bring it right out to the table. They're going to be kind of similar to the porcelain, so that's why in the normal kit I've got the porcelain. This is kind of an upgrade to it. When I have both, I use both. So I mean, this is my go-to when I normally just want something. The porcelain, because it's more of an insulator, it's going to be less of a crust. So this is kind of going to act more like a glass, where it's going to be a little bit more insulated, a little less crust. This is going to be much more heat retention, a little bit more crust. That's kind of the big difference between the two. You know, one of my dishes I make all the time is, you know, mac and cheese and stuff, a baked mac, and that's really, you know, wonderful in this because you get that really good crusty outside when you're using the cast iron, which I love. And then another kind of upgrade into the bakeware is the Provisions line from Heston. So this is a fully bonded tri-ply bakeware, which is really, really unique. So similar with this, it means that you're going to get really good heat moving up the sides and all around and get really good even heat throughout the piece. This is going to be much more even heating than the aluminum bakeware is. The negative of it is obviously going to be, you know, weight and cost, which is why I don't include it in the standard kit. And even in the Ultimate Kit, it doesn't replace any of that, because even having these in the house, I still grab the aluminum pans for certain projects. If I'm just doing really quick cooking of things and I don't want to necessarily have, you know, the presentation of the stainless steel, that's going to be kind of almost easier to maintain than this. But when you have something that, again, is that kind of oven to table piece, or you really need even cooking, that's where having the Provisions is really nice. And I really like it, particularly with the sheet pans and stuff. These get used, you know, for cooking and then putting it right out on the table for parties and hors d'oeuvres and things like that. So this is really nice. When I go into the Heston's line, I do upgrade to Heston's grids from the other grids, so that gets you a nice stainless steel grid as opposed to the coated. Another Dutch oven that I'm including is the De Meyer. So this is kind of an interesting piece from them. And De Meyer, with their pieces, they are heavy. So this really makes a good Dutch oven because it does have that weight, but being stainless, this being heavy and a 9 quart, it is dramatically lighter than cast iron of the same dimension. So this is, again, at least a third weight less than a cast iron Dutch oven of its size. And the other nice thing about it is, because the walls are so thin, you have a really large cooking surface that I really like on these. And so this is a really nice versatile piece to kind of give you another additional size, and larger than the 7 1/4 that I normally include, and between the 5 quart with this. So you kind of have a good middle ground in sizes. And then this also can act as a smaller stock pot. So we already have the 12 quart stock pot. This, you can absolutely use this as a 9 quart stock pot as well. So it kind of gives you that, you know, dual function of an additional stock pot while also acting as a Dutch oven with the really heavy weight and being good for, you know, anything a Dutch oven's good for. I'd still use the cast iron if you're going to be baking, things like that. But for braises and other just kind of large roasting and stuff, this is going to perform really nicely. And because it's got that clad surface, you really do have even heating all the way around, more so than you're going to get with a cast iron Dutch oven. So there is some actual usability benefits, even though stainless is kind of a untraditional material people don't think of for Dutch ovens. Because De Meyer does such a heavyweight stainless, it really does perform amazing as a Dutch oven while being a stainless pot that you can use for other things as well. And then the kind of last item here is going to be, again, in the prep world, is the mandolin. And so this is a really nice piece called the Super Burner, and it's really nice because you have a foot that you can set up, but you just have a grip and a non-stick piece, so it's really just quick and easy to be able to set it up, set your height for whatever your cutting is, and you've got an additional blade included, but you can replace all these blades really easily. And so that way, when this goes dull, you don't have to worry about trying to sharpen it something. You just buy a new blade. But this is a lot smaller and easier upkeep than you're going to get with those big contraptions that have big stands and stuff. I don't use this very often, so I don't want something that's going to take up a ton of cabinet space. And this one has been one of those ones that hit a lot of the reviews really say it's a fantastic piece, with the Japanese carbon steel blades. Cuts really, really well. And, you need a little safety with it. And so I've really loved these Mercer cut gloves. They're a very lightweight glove. So you have a lot of dexterity. You don't feel like you're getting in the way, as some of the other cut gloves that can get really thick is. So I'm going to include these in a couple different sizes in the set. If you need something particular, let me know. Otherwise, I'll give you the links of where to buy more if you need additional sizing. ISI whipper. This is actually made by Mosa, but ISI is kind of the company that's mainly known for it. The people who did this came from ISI, and so almost identical in style and similarity. There's a couple more pieces in here that are metal versus plastic, which is why I'm using this particular one. But this is a really versatile piece, and not just for whipping whipped creams, but also for sodas and CO2. So if you want to make like a soda stream and do your own infusion, you could do that with this without having to have, the full soda stream cartridge, and just do some quick stuff with it. So I've seen where we've used to make a topping on another dessert or dish where we just used like the plant-based cream from Country Crock, and you can make even vegan creams and stuff with this. Really a really nice piece that I always find new uses for, and you can always accessorize this too with different tips and stuff if you have other needs in the future. So that's kind of the main upgrades and stuff that you're getting with the Ultimate Kit. So this is really going to be more of that chefy stuff where you really want either the more fun tools to play with, like the whipper, or you're entertaining, and so we want the larger bowl for mixing, we want the mandolin for bulk processing, the food mill, or the kind of the more table-ready bakeware that you can cook in, bring it right out to the table, and it looks gorgeous. If you're someone who entertains, or you like to mess around with more materials and have more options and what you can do, then the Ultimate Kit is really for you. This is going to be a great, spot to have everything that you need and then some, and be able to, really cook like a pro, or at least have the tools to do so. If you have any questions, please hit me up. Otherwise, thank you very much.